first special guest speaker, Professor James Tai. I suppose most of you know him, so that I don't need to introduce extensive list, but allow me to introduce him. Professor James Tai is Distinguished Chair Professor at the Graduate Institute of Linguistics, Director of the Research Center for Humanities and Social Sciences, and the Director of Advanced Gerontological Expertise Institute of National Institute. And I just found out that he is also the co-director of the new Center for Innovative and Transdisciplinary Research on Aging at National Chengchi University of Taiwan. He received his doctoral degree in linguistics from Indiana University and taught at Southern Illinois University from 1970 to 1986, and Ohio State University 1986 through 1995 before he joined the National Chengchi University to serve as the founding chair of the Graduate Institute of Linguistics, and later as the Dean of the College of Humanities. He was Director General of the Division of Humanities and the Social Sciences at the Taiwan National Science Council, President of the International Association of Chinese Linguistics, and the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award of the Taiwan Linguistic Society. His research focuses on syntagmatic relations in the syntax-semantics interface and on the modality of communication in spoken language and sign language with reference to the universals and the particulars of the human language. Since 2010, he has been working with psychologists and neuroscientists on the relationship between language and aging, with the aim of identifying linguistic markers of dementia among Chinese-speaking elders. He's one of the founding members of the NACO 30 years ago, while he was at Ohio State. So it's our pleasure to have him as a plenary speaker today. And his talk is entitled Neuroplasticity and Acquisition of the Chinese Language.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Too loud. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Gigi. And I really very touched when yesterday when I opened the first page of notes and shows that was drafted by March and Zhibo about my involvement as a senior professor here for this NACO. And I especially appreciate the fact that March has been working hard to make NACO survive for 30 years. So it's really has invited us a special guest, and this is really a special occasion, and especially really touched and deeply grateful for all the coordination from the organized committee, as well as for all of these good friends coming all over from everywhere, not only in North America, but also from China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Europe. Now, this actually a spin-off of my research on language and aging from a more kind of interdisciplinary approach. But now, as you can see, we worked so hard, especially on my part for the last 10 years, just trying to get a big grant money. And finally, we got it at the end of last month, and that's why I've been very hectic schedule to prepare this talk, and that's why also the change of the title slightly from the original title of acquisition of second language, Chinese as second language, to acquisition of Chinese language. It takes away a lot of complexity, okay? But this is a start. Now, I wanted to limit my talk to about 45 minutes and then entertain the question from you, and comments for another 50 minutes. Here's our outline. I'll briefly introduce the neuroplasticity. Am I too loud or should I go on the voice? Is that okay for you? Okay, all right. So then I need kind of a very brief introduction for the neural substrate of language. For those of you who are familiar with this area, please bear my redundancy. Then I will talk about the language acquisition and neuroplasticity. But at the end, it's overlap topic of what I've been doing in these years is in conjunction with psychologists, in collaboration with psychologists and the cognitive neuropsychologists, is in the area of cognitive research in both genetic and culture area. And then I'll give a very short concluding remarks. Let me see. Okay, plasticity refers to the ability of organism to be adaptive to the new environment and experiences. Now, neuroplasticity refers to the ability of the brain to modify genetic, in the sense of robustness, structures and their functions. It can be defined as change in neural organism due to adaptation, learning, and a compensatory adjustment in response to functional losses from aging and brain damage. And actually, what in the past, what my focus has been on aging and dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay, but today, this neuroplasticity will deal with more learning. Okay, and specifically, learning covers all the cognitive skills, right? But then, of course, then the language part of language acquisition part of learning, which my view predicate on the ability of different type of memory and attention and the executive functions. Okay, I will go through this very briefly. Okay, if you are familiar with this, please just bear with me. Okay, this is the four lobes in the introduction of first year linguistic or psychology, cognitive psychology. We see that. Okay. Now, you will have to be familiar with the Wernicke, first Broca area, and you know the history. Okay, Wernicke area and the Broca area and Wernicke area. Now, I want to take the Wernicke and the Lifton model for Awasian research as the starting point here, or as part of introduction. The Broca area, I won't read this, okay? You can read it much better than my speech, okay? So that's what PowerPoint for. So basically, Broca area is responsible for speech production. And in the interest time, you can Google it. I'll leave the PowerPoint here, and if you don't know where is that particular area of brain, which is Google, okay? And that's what I've been teaching my course on Introduction to Neurolinguistics. So it's very, with a Google system, it's quite effective. Then the Wernicke area is speech comprehension. And then this vertical different model, it basically comes from the 7 types of aphasia to see how the area of brain, including covering the so-called agrammatical or telegraphical speech, decrease the auditory comprehension and anomia. Okay, and this is you must be very familiar, and also in the introduction of the linguistic textbook about Lefferts's model of production. And this is important in a sense of, especially you look at the lexicon. Why is that Lefferts doesn't say just lexicon, but rather than Lima. Okay, because Lima, just take a verb in Japanese as an example. You know there's 3 arguments, but then you know you have to, in English of course you have agreements and all this information packed with the key verb. But in Japanese, the give will have the, so you have to know, are you talking to your superior, or you're talking to your colleagues, or all this actually packed in that area. And that's why it's another time when I was explaining to my students, I said, look, you know, it's a miracle that we can do in a short second. You can do so much, putting the information together and produce it. Okay. All right. So, so here's the basically the beyond the refinements of the vertical in the kind of review of history. Okay, is a connection between the temporal and frontal language center, and the dorsal or superior pathway, auditory motor mapping, and the processing of syntactic complex and ventures. And let me use this one just as 2 slides from here, okay, and then to here, and you can see where's the basically the ventral one, the bottom one, as for semantic and lexical information. The top one, the dorsal one, is is for the syntactic computation. The broca area in the left hemisphere. Now, there's something here I want to involve, because when we speak the language, we actually also have the prosody. And now the prosody is basically depends on what kind of prosody. If there's carried linguistic information like indicative versus interrogative, then you basically coming out from left hemisphere. But if you have affective contents of the prosody, you go coming out from the right hemisphere. Now, this was one of the slides I used 10 years ago when I started teaching linguistics at my university. And these are very old slides, but it served the purpose, okay? Now this is basically talking about the verbal mediation area and the non-mediation area. But this is based on native speaker English. In this lecture, I'll show you another research by Dehaene and that actually it doesn't work that way for Chinese now. The mediation area is different, and that's actually also today's my theme or topic. And this just to show you that in a way, actually this one show you where the now when we started linguistics many years ago, I think we basically were talking about the neocortex. But now, in the last 20 or 30 years, research is actually getting to involve the different layers of the brain. Altogether, it's 7 layers brain. And down the neocortex, there's an area called basal ganglia. And it's been, in the past 10 years or so, it's been shown that basal ganglia actually involved with the sequencing of the language. Okay? And of course, it's just not the purpose. It's not designed for language, but rather than for procedures. So if someone get Alzheimer to the point that the basal ganglia area is damaged, then he or she will not able to do what I'm doing. Right? I have to know, in order to drink this cup, from water from this glass. First, I have to take my hand. I know exactly what kind of hand shape I need to hold this one, and then that. And if you get into take care of the Alzheimer person, especially in the second stage, a lot of time they have problem of grabbing water. So you go to a home care place or a specific, at least couple of them just to to understanding what life at the end of your life, or my life can be. It's you need someone to feed you, okay? Because you basically forgot how to. In order to eat, you need to first grab the chopsticks and then put in the rice in your mouth. Okay? And that basal ganglia area exactly involved with the sequencing. So like now, when I am working on my third language, English, and I need that area very much. And it's just a kind of a very good view for you to know what you have under that neocortex, okay, and down after the basal ganglia, okay, and this one is talking about just to show you where the hippocampus is, because that's involved with memory, okay, and then amygdala involved with emotion, okay, and then this is the detailed structure of the basal ganglia, and then what are we doing this as in our research team, especially for our students? We have to go through this because we want to. The goal in the end of cognitive neuroscience is to understand whatever the linguistic behavior, how exactly is the correlation? Okay, not just the location, the actual location, but the mediation side, the network, how it comes out. Okay, and I think yesterday we're at a workshop, right? And we have this corpus linguistics, and we talk about there's a book by Smith, right? Talk about increase the empiricism, and it's a kind of an interesting title because I've been following. I grew up basically with the Chomsky generative grammar, and my PhD dissertation centers on Chomsky's most favorite transformation called coordination tax. But we want to know. Back time working on theory, but we want to know whether there's reduction, even on the minimums. You want to know whether there is a cognitive thing, whether there is where is the binary structure in the brain, okay? Because of the minimum thing, the idea, as some of you familiar with. It's in each of the tiers, the binary structure up to I don't care how many layer of T, and T. You have to convince me that's not just the philosophical linguistics. That's something is actually there and in brain. Okay, that's another kind of introduction to the language in the brain areas actually taking advantage of Goleman's area. Goleman's area, of course, was basically divided according to different kinds of cells. But then it's people working on the linguistics are also trying to use this one as another view of looking at the language in the brain. Okay, and now you can see that this is basically shows you how in the past, okay, if you remember, your memory is great enough or familiar with broadcast, you see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is not broadcast, the Goleman's area, but rather than I usually try this one to try my students' memory. Okay, look, and this here is all the area involved with the DA 45 and broadcast area 47, that. Okay. All right. Okay. Now that's enough for kind of very brief introduction to. Now, anytime. So now we go to this very simple narration of language production and comprehension. So at the time we receive language, whether when we are reading or listening, we will include parts of the temporal lobe and process of words as they were small. It's true because we evolved to speak the language and to have learned to write language. So basically, in this view, it's the spoken language is we got the spoken language, okay, from the long-term or evolution, and then you take the Chinese skills, you would say, well, there's a certain kind of mutation of the gene, and probably later on, of course, Chinese we talked this very early in the past, but later on there is something like people find out and you might know that FOXP2, and there's a kind of gene, and the FOXP2, there is a gene SG gap2, and we have 3 copies. A chimpanzee has only 1 copy, okay? And that is kind of sometimes I use that one to kind of give an interpretation to Chomsky's view of mutation, genetic mutation. We also use the area of visual, and so basically, in a sense, okay, spoken language is biologically based. But however, as you know, even as early as the Egyptian writing system or the Chinese writing system in the oracle mode, we basically learn to read. Okay, so this is a learning to read is a cultural thing. But then to speak your mother tongue is a biological development with the brain. Okay? And then when you learn, you still use that system of brain, but make the brain, rewire the brain into a more complex system so that you can read and based on the spoken language, even if you use the Chinese logographic system. So, so this is the, so I'm going to skip this one. Okay, so this is more like based on the sequence of the spoken language. And then when you go to the written language, you can see this much more complicated. Just to give you a really the rough view of the from spoken language to written language. Okay, so let's use Dehaene's reading in the brain. This is I usually recommend people doing the reading to this book, and it's a very interesting book. And let me just see the quote there. It's basically recycling the neural recycling hypothesis. And I think, okay, the learning sometimes in some area, there's 2 things here, okay, does increase, kind of develop certain area of your brain in terms of weight, in terms of volume, but also in terms of how complicated you recycle and how good you recycle the existing neural system. Okay, then of course this has been identified called the VWF area, visual word form area, and this is where according to Dehaene and Dehaene's research, and so this is also at the same time the location for Japanese kana and Chinese character. Okay, now I want to move to the language acquisition and the neuroplasticity part, and with a kind of focus on the differences of language structure in relation to the neuroplasticity. So, taking the start with phonology, okay. At first, maybe can discriminate the prosodic elements and phonetic contrast of almost every language. This has been reported earlier by Miller in 1988. Now, around 2 years old, they discriminate only between contrast specific. It depends on, I think in this year's, if I remember correctly, something from 14 months to 2 years. Okay. And you take the Japanese out and L, for example. Okay. Basically, the Japanese infants, the baby can distinguish R and L. But then, when getting to 2 years old, they have trouble with that. Okay. And I think this is also true for my own speech. I'm in Southern India. I don't have that R and L. Right? So if I want to do the R thing, I have to very consciously use the Mandarin retroflex I learn, and then trying to, and depends on the vowel. If it's a lower, I can say, but then I can say, I cannot do Ru, R-U-L, as distinguished from L-U-L-E, okay? And I can do it very consciously if I teach, when I taught in United States, I had to, student do what they call student evaluation. I used to teach that 231, right? And the student would say, yeah, I say, your accent is so bad. I can't. So I had to very consciously to overcome this one. All right, now, in terms of the, back to the plasticity question, okay. The phonetician has been reported. There's a correlation between size and of the left pulse operculus in Broca area, and it's likely to develop a multiple left transverse gyrus is a kind of convolution in the area of the cortex of brain. In auditory cortex in the left temporal lobe, then the non-expert control. And then I put this one. This actually the case of London taxi driver is a more well known than the phonetician case. Is that somehow the London driver tax, because they needed the 2 years extensive training to get a license, right? And so there's actually the increase of the gray matters volume in hippocampus, so that the memory is better. Okay, well, the correlation between the hippocampus volume to years of driving. Okay, and this is more well-cited cases, but I thought this is kind of relevant points. It just not the visual. It's not just the auditory system. It's also the visual system, and that's why I have been tempted to do, because I also have a Taiwan Center for sign linguistics, so we can get people involved in doing that kind of research, whether to what extent the signer, the wrong deaf signer, what is the visual ability, because they have to sign to use the eye to see the facial expression, etc. Now, of course, the Chinese lexical tone is an interesting thing, and the basic idea is this, okay? The pitch seems to be on the right hemisphere, but once the pitch system, either with or without contour, lexicalized, then it immediately involves the computation in the left brain. And sometimes people ask me, especially my daughter, how come it's so hard to learn the tone? Especially she was a music major at Stanford, so he was very frustrated, and so we often have a debate, and he get in the Google system to debate whether if you train a child with a tone language to become a better musician, or how come a lot of good musicians couldn't learn 4 tones in Chinese, okay? And that has to be how rooted, okay, where you learn whether you start with the music training first, or you start with the so it goes a lot of literature on this, and I'll just stop here, okay? But maybe you have more interest in you than I just read the report. But it's a very lot of if you Google it, a lot of issue on this one. How is the variation between musical skill and the tone language, and the difficulty why is so sometimes when you teach the first year Chinese and you go ma 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 without the lexical item, but once you get into the big lexical system, it's really very hard for your students. Okay, I mean even me as a South Indian native speaker, when I learned the Mandarin, it's tough. I mean even now sometimes you learn quite fast using the pinyin system. I have my assistant sitting beside me. Oh, so this is the second tone, that's third tone. Okay? And that's how it gets through. All right. Okay. Now, with noun and verb, right? Earlier slide shows you that basically, in the interest of time, I won't go back to that slide, and that's why that slide tells you that where's the mediation of verbs in English language, and okay, it's basically the left prefrontal cortex including the broca area, but the noun is the posterior area, temporal occipital region outside the broca. And then you got Li Ping and Li Aitang talking about the way they see it is that through the neural imaging, the noun and the verb is activate a wide range of overlapping area in the distributed network in both left and the right hemisphere. And I think and their speculation, which I agree, is that this part of speech in Chinese is not really, they got lacking morphology, okay? It's not really as clear as in English. And in the past, I often say, well, even the preposition, and those people like to work in formal syntax, likes to equate the preposition in Chinese as preposition in English, okay? But if you know the history of that, the Chinese preposition is not as a closed system, preposition, okay? It's not as a closed system or a semi-closed system as a subset of 26 English preposition, okay? So that's why when earlier I working on temporal sequence, people laugh at me. I mean, but now it does. There's something there because the Chinese preposition. Or if you want to know our history, just read my website. You will see all the PDF are there. Okay, you can see how I argue. So that's what so the reason you have this is because the structure, the part of speech as well as agreement stuff is not really like important in the Chinese structure, and that's somehow reflected in the brain. All right, now I see I got only 15 minutes, 16 minutes long. I talk about the two kinds of cognitive reserve, okay? Especially in the context of aging, and as I said today, in the end, what I like to conjecture is that if you learn the Chinese language, it doesn't matter at which stage, okay, to how to read, to speak, you probably will live longer and delay your dementia a little bit for a couple of years. Okay. Would you like to hire me as a salesperson for the company? Okay. That's exactly a lot of companies advertise. Oh, we got the certain kind of big discovery of the pill that can cure Alzheimer's disease. You know Alzheimer's disease after 100 years of discovery by Dr. Alzheimer, there's no cure. Okay. And I have a slide to share with you for kind of speculate why so far there is no cure. Okay. Now, the study in the neuroscience of aging has found that systematic change in the brain structure as the year passed by. Okay, and then detail I won't go through. Okay, but the important thing for the language development probably is the frontal lobe hypothesis. Okay, the cognitive deficit in older adults are primarily due to anatomical and functional deterioration in the frontal lobe. Okay, and then executive function is mediated by the prefrontal cortex, which here the last maturing brain region under the neuroanatomical development, the region most sensitive to degeneration in the elderly. So let me bring you back to the development of our brain from chimpanzee to the human being. It's basically the front lobe and the prefrontal cortex is developed last. Okay, and the idea since from Goleman Jacobson's well-known book by phonology, child language acquisition, and aphasia. The idea is the first learn, last go. First come, last go. Okay, last come, first go. Okay, and I will take that one analogous to a lot of area of language development. Okay, and so in a way parallel to the development of our brain, okay, either from the phylogenetic development as a human brain, or from genetic of child language acquisition, and the development of child brain. Okay, now there's in the sense of, in the definition, what I call the genetic cognitive reserve is somehow your brain system is a way to do the compensation, and it's involved two ways. One is the posterior to anterior shift in aging, and then the other one is actually the hemisphere. You recruit language basically mostly largely in that hemisphere, but you can, when you're the front lobe or prefrontal lobe from prefrontal cortex get damaged, okay, or decline because the age, then what can do is the brain what can do in order to achieve the same function is to recruit the homologous brain system from left to the right brain, the right hemisphere to the left brain in the homologous area. Now, it's also in my attention, and I just get this one in order to save the time. I get this one from Goleman's popular book and the so-called focus that books. Okay, the bottom of mind is very automatic and fast, but top-down mind is slow and voluntary, self-control, and make a new plan. And this is the one. Now, when you get old, when you age, okay, somehow you actually make both the top and the bottom decline. Okay. So actually, you cannot thinking that fast, a model of thinking fast and slow that by Kahneman. You have to take out also at the aging into consideration. Now, this is an important slide. I also show this in the workshop. Okay. Now you can see the start from 20 years old. You actually, your cognitive ability kind of hit the peak, and then you begin to decline after 20 years old. And you can see those colored lines. You have the blue and light blue for long-term memory and working memory. I'm a little bit colorblind, so that's why I'm lucky to become a linguist and still go to medical school. If I had gone to medical school, I was stuck in a small town of Luca, running my father's clinic. Okay, and you can see that okay, now I think you read the and then, but except that the only thing which really doesn't decline is your word knowledge with three colors from red to pink to, and you see here is, let me see if I can, oh no, not this one, sorry. I'm back, right. Okay, and now where's the point? Oh, I see, Marty. Okay, here. Oh, I needed to do this next. Remember, I am just exactly 1 month from now, from today. Hey, Marty, you are quite ingenious to put this. Okay, all right, here. Yeah, okay, I am 77 a month from now. And look at it here. So everything will be like this, right? And mine is, I'm here. Okay. I'm here. And all right. And you see, and actually, I want to say this is just a starting point. I want my research is just to show you, okay, in the future, I hope that through effort learning, like right now, I'm learning Korean Hangul. It's hard, it's tough for me. You think Korean is easier to learn. I've learned about 1 semester and about the only 2 I can recognize on the Taiwanese, on the street in Taiwan. Now Korean is very popular. I can only recognize kimchi. Okay. All right. So, but see here, what I meant is that when I'm doing these new things, okay, I think I will be going on this here, not these, okay, but this will be up a little bit, okay. That's why I like to define this parts, the these parts. Yeah. Okay. Now this one also goes with this. I like this this scaffolding theory of aging is because you can see we already talked about how the brain structure and the function going up together, right? And you look at we are concerned about this genetic stuff with starting with upper E4, and if you have 2 copies of E4, then you are more likely to develop Alzheimer's. Okay, 2 copies. Okay, but you have but nonetheless, the important thing is that nonetheless that you find people without upper E4, without even 1 copy, still develop Alzheimer's. So why is that? Okay, and it goes to this entire scaffolding conceptual. This is basically a conceptual frame to do. Okay, and so this part you can see that basically you also know, and this is my concern. Low SES. Okay, it's low socio-economic status. And why is here? Why is there? And it's true. The working area. Okay. Let me report to you something related to changes here. So remind me about Japanese fact. Japanese population is the oldest one in the whole world. Already 26% of the population are over 65 years old. But then, correlated with that is the suicide of the older people in Japan is also high. Okay, and so then back to my county where I work. Is the Jiayi area. Jiayi County is the oldest population and the poor area, and that brings me that very meaningful research. Every time people ask me, why do you want to do this kind of research? Okay, actually it's not just to understand myself, but rather than understand those people who are in the low income, illiterate people, and they are subject to the dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay, so this is something that the kind of what I call transdiscipline approach to that. Basically, I'm the architecture of that entire framework, and I know what I'm talking about. Okay, and that's why I got the grant money for the next 5 years. But I will have to go into the rural area almost every weekend just to interact with those illiterate person or low education person and the poor to find out how we can ask them to do this up there, new learning, social interaction, exercise, cognitive training, meditation. They can't even read, right? How do you tell how to take care of themselves in terms of physiological condition as well as the psychological condition as well as the exercise? Now we know exercise is more important to generate from the animal experiment. Exercise can generate new neurons, but just reading and intellectual work cannot. It's only delay the decay of your neural system. So exercise is very important. That's why I force myself to walk 10,000 steps every day. And if I walk 10,000 steps, I am crazy. I just have to go out there and walk, and then otherwise I can't sleep. Because I believe the important thing of fast walking. And of course, then the next thing I needed to do is to do get someone to train weightlifting, light weightlifting, because I needed a muscle. My leg is fine because I can walk a long distance, but here is so. And this things, okay, and then we had this mindful meditation sometimes doesn't work for people with different religions. And this is a concept comes from, but people think that they are, especially for those who believe in Buddhism, they think they already, they sit there and doing the sutra and things, and they are doing some kind of, achieve the same kind of effect. In any case, now the other part is the intervention, and I think I've been getting one guy in Obi Zheng's team. I don't have my own team doing the image, the neurocognitive imaging, but I'm in collaboration with Obi Zheng's team. Obi is the guy who got me back to Taiwan to change my life. Okay, and so I got stuck with him, and wherever he goes, Spain, I go, and wherever he wants to go, I go, and just to interact with the neurologists. I mean, neuroscientists along different parts of the world, and I learned a lot about it. Okay, anyhow, okay. So this is the kind of entire scaffolding system, and that system requires, as you can see, transdiscipline approach to do it in the local rural community, and that's basically the model of our teams. Okay. All right. Now I only don't have 2 minutes left for my own time. Okay. But I will reserve a longer time for you. And this has to do. I'll skip this one. Okay. How many of you are familiar with the non-study? How many of you? Huh? And if you work at a shop, okay. Are you sure you don't raise your hand, or are you receiving me? I'm sure you all know. No? Okay. All right. Then I'll make a statement. So this is actually a very famous study, and I like this one because the nuns, okay, in the comments, they start writing their diary. Okay. When they got to comment 18, right? And they're there, and they have a very rigorous life, as you know, especially as a group. They are quite homogeneous, right? They do their behavior and all of them are basically the same. And then they keep writing diary until they're 89 or 90. Okay, but so you compare the diary between the lifespan from 18 to at the end across the 80 years. Almost 70 years of lifespan. You can see what the discovery there is that they actually, their language becomes simple in terms of vocabulary as well as grammatical complexity. Okay, but the most intriguing study of this is that Dr. Snowden, actually he's a PhD, he's also a medical doctor. He got 623 nuns to sign an agreement for them to have their brain examined after they pass away, right? And it turns out to be, for that group of nuns, they actually function very well, but although their brain shows the kind of exactly the same kind of symptom in terms of the tau and beta deposit, beta amyloid. Okay, beta amyloid deposit. They're supposed to be have Alzheimer's symptom, but they don't. They still function well. So sometimes I wonder, I would like to volunteer to have my brain dissected to see maybe I have all these things there, but I still can function. And why? Okay. So I'm going to skip this one, okay? And so it's basically a linguistics examine the idea density and the grammatical complexity, and there's an association of the low idea density in young adult with optical neurocognitive development. Okay? And then how you do the idea density, and this actually quite language. It's a proposition density. So the way we count after free work, after transcribe, after this thing, I basically ask my assistant to measure the vocabulary size, especially how many verbs is there. Okay. And then the grammatical complexity, of course, about embedded sentences. And then, but this is just show you that there's different kind of structure there. You have to do the Chinese, the right branch in English and the Chinese is different. Okay. And then, so how you do the scoring? Okay. That's okay. Now, so okay, exactly 0 minutes. Okay. So in this talk, I'm only able to give you a raw picture of language acquisition and neuroplasticity, which refers some part of Chinese grammar. Now, neuroplasticity involving learning of Chinese as a second language will have to be researched in conjunction with bilingual and monolingual brain, and which basic, and that's why I changed my kind of more less ambitious title as a learning Chinese as a second language. But that's what I would like to do. And we also have basic data in the which I thought at the time to summarize them, to doing the meta-analysis approach to get to all these different type of research about learning Chinese as a second language from the neurolinguistic point of view at National Sida, okay, National Normal University, because they in the past 5 years they got a big grant to do that, okay, and I'm one of their chief consultants, so I know who does what, but I didn't have time to put them together, okay, and that's why back to a more kind of small, limited scale, as the title indicates. But in the future, if I have another opportunity, I hope I can get this thing together to report it. Okay. Thank you very much.